We are live on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn. Uh, Joining us today is Jay Buchsbaum from Royal Wines. I'm very excited. We're going to be celebrating Passover. And then next week, we'll be celebrating Easter, food-wise, on both of our spring holidays. And I'm really excited. We're going to do a kosher wine tasting. So don't go away. We've got a lot to do in about 30, 40 minutes. Mark Alyn Cooks is on the air. And we are here. I'm Mark Alyn in Thousand Oaks, California. We're going to bring in Jay Buchsbaum right now, who is in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and we're going to welcome him from Royal Wines. Jay, welcome to Mark Alyn Cooks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark. And it's just a pleasure to be here and to share some wine and food with you.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun. The first question is, and I think everybody knows that's been watching this show. I'm Jewish. I was raised Jewish. Carol is Jewish, and she was raised Jewish. But kosher wines are kosher wines for everybody. You don't have to. You don't have to be Jewish if you remember the comedy records from the '60s.
Yeah, the famed line is you don't have to be Jewish to love Levy's Rye, remember?
Yeah.
That was back in New York. But really, I mean, unlike any other food product that is kosher, where ingredients matters. So, for example, if you're going to have cake or cookies, it can't have gelatin and it can't have a whole bunch of series of other non-kosher ingredients. The difference between kosher and non-kosher wine is zero in terms of its ingredients. So if you're going to have a good kosher wine, it should be as good as its non-kosher counterpart. The only difference between kosher wine and non-kosher wine is from the crushing of the grape until the bottle is sealed. The entire process is overseen and handled by a Sabbath observant Jewish person. But the wine should be just as good. So there, in fact, we have now Israeli wines and California wines that happen to be kosher that are in hundreds of non-kosher restaurants throughout the country and throughout the world.
Oh my! Now, Royal Wines is the parent company to maybe more familiar um, vintages like Herzog. Here in Ventura County, we have a winery. Many people don't even know that. It's a kosher winery. It's Herzog Winery in Oxnard, California, and they have a great restaurant, Tierra del Sol, that's marvelous. It's just a fabulous restaurant. It's been rated one of the top, if not the top restaurant. I'm wearing a yarmulke, folks, because I wanted to join Jay. Um, and it's been rated one of the top restaurants in Ventura County. All right, I want to shut up and I want to listen to Jay. I'm going to start with this, which is the private collection um, from Israel. It's Winemaker's Blend from Carmel. Can you tell us a little bit about this? I popped the cork already, but I'm going to pour some while you're telling us a little bit about this.
Well, the first thing that occurs to me before I get into some really wonderful history about this is that you just open it up and it literally fills the area with aromatics of plum and black cherry and black cherry, um, and and a little bit of anise and a little bit of vanilla and oak. But what's interesting, and this is a wine that's accessible both in flavor and in accessibility as far as pricing goes. It's under $20 and it's available in Los Angeles and its environs. And the winery was established, arguably, Carmel is the largest winery in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And it was established, believe it or not, in the late 1800s by the Rothschild family.
Oh
The
my!
same Rothschild that has Lafitte and the same family that has Mouton and et cetera, et cetera. So Latour. So they spent a lot of money to establish the winery and then let the growers take it over. What's wonderful also, and people may know this about wines, is that the most important thing about making great wine is the raw materials, is the grapes that it comes from. And so the winery was established, funded by Rothschild, but it was established amongst the growers. So they have the widest range of vineyards from Israel. And so that's what really separates, in some cases, this winery from many others in Israel. They really control the process literally from the ground up until the bottle is sealed.
I have to tell you that Cab is one of my favorite wines. I drink, if I'm drinking a Cab, wine, a red wine, I will go to a Cab. I also like Zinfandel, Merlot, I guess Malbec. I like it all. Um, and with a steak, a skirt steak, for example, this would be really really terrific. What should a new wine person look for
So,
when they're
so
opening
one
this up?
one of the things I love about this wine and about Israeli wines in general is that good wine drinkers are always exploring, and as we should as human beings, we should always be interested in growing and exploring, whether it be in food or wine or intellect. And so Israel is, for so many people, a new wine growing region that has been touted as being a really exciting and high quality region.
Right.
You know, this winery has garnered 90s and above in so many tastings, including wine magazines such as the Wine Spectator and the Wine Enthusiast and Robert Parker, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe not perhaps this exact wine, but Israel in general
Hmm.
has found very high um, ratings and quality from non-kosher wine critics, not from the Jewish press or the Jewish Link or your local Jewish paper. So if you're a wine drinker that wants something interesting and exciting from a new wine growing region, I don't think there's a better place in the world than to get it from than from Israel.
And it's a great way of supporting Israel in the in the strife that we have in the Middle East. Well, let's taste now. When we drink wine, um, we usually say a prayer. When you're doing a wine tasting, do you say a prayer the first glass or each glass?
No, for the first and only glass.
The first
And
and
that
only.
actually depends on whether I'm swallowing the wine or not, because you do not say a prayer over the wine if you're going to spit it.
Got it. Got
It's
it.
only when you consume it. So I will make the prayer because I haven't done it yet. And believe me, in this case, the wine smells so good. I'm really excited about it. I'm going to drink every drop of this first taste. Okay.
Yes, I
So
am
here we
too.
go.
Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, borei peri hagafen.
My kippah fell off. Mm. It's a
Mm.
rich, round wine. Um,
Yeah, it's got, I mean, imagine this wine is under 20 bucks and this kind of richness and creaminess.
mm.
It's wow. I mean, I haven't tasted this particular incarnation from Carmel in a long time, and man, I'm glad I have. Also, what's interesting about the Carmel wines, if you take a look at the back label, I don't know if you
Right.
could see it.
And I've got
It
it
tells
here.
you how much time it spent in oak, tells you how to store it, at what temperature, and it tells you just, one or two words about the flavor profile.
And I taste the berry in here. I think that's
Yeah.
all right. Here's a trick that has nothing to do with wine. A bobby pin will hold my yarmulke on my head. Okay. Oh,
That's because
Carol
your
is,
hair is so long.
yes, it's true.
And at your age, you should be very grateful that you do have that long hair, you
Every
know?
morning I say thank you. Yes, I have a full head of hair. That's a nice wine. Um, we have a lot of wines to talk about. We're going to taste several, and we're going to make something that is served at Passover called charoset. And it's a simple dish. It doesn't involve anything other than chopping and stirring. You stay tuned for that, okay? Um, I'm really uh, interested in something called, and I'm going to mispronounce it, meshuval.
Mevushal.
Okay, what you said. Um,
Yeah.
and I know what it is. It's flash point boiling um, of the wine. Most kosher wines are undergo this process.
Mevushal.
Yes. Can you tell us about that briefly?
Yeah. According
While
to
you do that,
Talmudic
I'm going to have
tradition,
another sip.
according to Talmudic tradition, if a wine is Mevushal and it's spelled just so that, and it's pronounced exactly the way it's spelled, Mevushal, Mevushal. Any wine that goes through that process, which is, as you said, a flash pasteurization, not even flash boiling, it's a flash pasteurization,
Okay.
which means that it is heated, it is first cooled as it goes in, and then it is heated for seconds, if not less, at less than boiling, at about 178, 180 degrees.
Okay.
And then as it comes out, it is cooled and then it is bottled. But according to Talmudic tradition, any wine that goes through that process can be handled by Jews and non-Jews alike, and it still retains its its kosher certification, its kosherness.
Got it.
And there's a long discussion as to why, and we don't have the several hours to, open the
Yeah.
Talmud and and go through that. But what's interesting about that is, and so necessary, is because a wine that does not go through this process, if
Hmm.
opened and poured by somebody who is not Sabbath observant, and that's even a Jewish person, if they're
Right.
not Sabbath observant, it loses its kosher certification.
Got it.
So why is that important? Because if you're going to a bar mitzvah or to a wedding, and you have whether it's Jewish waiters or non-Jewish waiters that are not Sabbath observant, and they pour a kosher wine, you're not drinking a kosher wine anymore if it's not mevushal.
Got
So
it.
now we have the wine, most of the wines now that are served in public forums are mevushal, and so therefore they return their kosher uh, certification and can be served by anyone to anyone and still remain kosher.
I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pull another bottle of wine out. We're not going to taste this one right now. Maybe I will talk about it. And I wanted to talk about the Herzog lineage. And this is a Malbec. Um, our Malbecs are, where's this from?
California,
California. And a lot of Malbecs are from South America too, aren't they?
Argentina.
Argentina. Um, where my ancestors, my grandfather on my father's side immigrated from Poland to Argentina. So
Hmm.
tell us about this and the lineage brand.
Well, lineage is the reason they named it lineage is because the Herzog family has been making wine since 1848 in Czechoslovakia. And in fact, the first winery they had was not kosher.
Oh,
They, even though they were a strictly very observant, very religious family, they made wine for the general public. And of course, they made several barrels kosher for themselves. And then in 1948, or actually in the 1945-ish area, their own Gentile workers loved them so much, and under the pain of death, um, hid them and protected them when the Nazis came into Czechoslovakia, hid
wow.
them under very scary circumstances, And then in 1948, after the war was over, they emigrated to the United States and started a winery in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And so today, they are already into the ninth generation of lineage, and
Oh
that's where the
my.
name comes from. The ninth generation of lineage of Herzog family that is making wine. So, in tribute to the long lineage of winemakers, they developed that. I don't have the, you have the wine in front of you. We actually ran out at the office,
That's
but
because you
they
sent them
developed
to
an
me.
entire, that's right.
You
They
did.
developed an
Thank you.
entire line of lineage wines with various, Chardonnay, Cabernet Merlot. This is the latest Malbec that comes from their own estate vineyards. And
In
it's
Clarksburg,
wonderful because,
California.
yes, it's wonderful because it expresses the the rich history and um, knowledge of lineage that goes into the wine. Plus, it's accessible. It's about $20 retail, and very high quality. And so it's one of those wines that is both delicious and accessible. And that's what the lineage wines are about
And I can't
from
wait to
Herzog.
try this. There's only so much wine I can drink in a half hour or 40 minutes. So I'm going to put this back. Um, I am
Save
going
it
to,
for your Seder.
yes, I'm going to bring that to the Seder. I may not. There's too many people. I want it for myself. I'm selfish. Mm. Okay. I thought we would go to a white. I have had this chilled. I know you don't have this bottle. This is Sagot. Did I get that right this time?
Sagot.
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 Sagot. I Sagot, and it's Sinai.
Like when you want to whisper to somebody, you go psst. So it's the
Sagot.
same thing. It's psst, goat.
Sagot.
Sagot.
Sagot. Okay. This is an interesting wine. 76% Gewürztraminer, 10% Viognier. Viognier is my wife Carol's, our director here, her favorite wine, and Chardonnay 7% of Sauvignon Blanc. So I'm going to open that up right now.
If you don't mind, I'm going to keep sipping on my
Oh,
Cabernet
absolutely.
from Carmel.
I've recently um, interviewed here on Mark Alyn Cooks, a wine maker. Oh, thank you, Carol. A wine writer, and she drinks about 20 glasses of wine a week. How many glasses? Oh, does she have you beat, Jay?
He has me beat. I
Yeah.
used to, it's so interesting that you asked that, that you mentioned that. Mark, I used to have a glass or two every evening with whether it was pasta or pizza or just macaroni.
Right.
But I've stopped that. And as I'm getting older, I'm finding that it's not as easy on my stomach as it used to be. So I'll have a glass of wine several times a week, but mostly I'll have some really fine wines over the Shabbat when we have a beautiful Friday night dinner and Shabbat morning lunch, and that's when I do my big reveals, like your friend from Panama was talking about.
Right. Yes. Travis. Whoops. So I'm going to get a glass. Whoop. Got to figure that out. All right. Here we go. I'm going to use this one for that. I really like a Gewürztraminer. It goes so well with like a roast turkey, roasted chicken. Tell me about this wine before I stick my nose in
Well,
and smell.
Sagot comes from an area called the Judean Hills,
Hmm.
and what's really fascinating is that it was started by a fellow by the name of Yaakov Berg, who was an attorney, and said, "I don't like this. I want to do something more interesting with my life." So he moved out to the Judean Hills. He was just getting started, so much so that he moved his family into a rail car, literally a caboose, not a caboose, a rail car,
Got it.
and converted the rail car into a little home. And then he started, planting a small vineyard around his rail car. And he looked. There was a little cave right on his property. He went into the cave, cleaned it out just to kind of put whatever wine that he wanted to make in the cave so it would keep it cool during the hot Israeli summers. And
Mm-hmm.
guess what? He discovered coins from the Roman era
Oh my.
with with clusters of grapes on them, which led him to understand that in that area, that particular cave had been used as a wine cave millennia ago.
Oh my.
And then it
Fascinating.
grew from there. And today, Sagot is one of the largest, what we call boutique wineries in all of Israel, making something like, you know, I don't know, 30, 40,000 cases. And for a boutique winery, that's quite a large winery.
That is.
Um, and one of the most award-winning wineries in Israel as well.
Well, I'm gonna.
Most of his wines are much more expensive than the wine that you're tasting in front of you. This is an accessible wine that's under $30. So even though it's not cheap, but it's really good. And it's what I love about it is it's aromatic and it's
Yes.
it's got all those grapes that you mentioned that are in it are actually tasty. You can
You
taste them
can.
all.
Yeah.
They're quite integrated, but it has all of those interesting layered and complex flavors in it. So Sagot's Sinai White is just wonderful in that respect.
It really is.
And it has a brother called a Red, which is also a blend of different grapes from red wines, and it's just really a wonderful little wine.
Now we're passing wine back and forth. I'm gonna hand this off camera to Carol. That would roast duck. Um, um, any poultry that would be just delicious.
And I think
Really.
I think not only any poultry, but a poultry with a little bit more, like maybe a little bit of a mushroom sauce. So because it's got a little of a bit of a boosted flavor in the white.
Right.
So
Also
not just a
smoked.
grilled poultry. Like that's why I said when you said duck, I thought that was brilliant,
Yeah,
actually.
a smoked chicken. I have a
Yeah.
smoker,
So
and if the rain would go away, I could smoke a chicken.
what you got to do is invite me, and then and make and kosher your smoker so that I could,
Yes,
and I'll bring you a kosher chicken, and then we'll all have some fun together.
you got it. Anytime you're out here, we'll do that. Um, all right, we've done those two wines. We have another wine to taste, but I want to talk about some of the others. This one here really fascinates me. This is Shiloh, and it's the Secret Reserve Petite Syrah. And you told me a fascinating story about this. I'm not going to open this up because it's going to take me 3 days to finish what I've opened.
Well, you may not open yours, but I'm going to open mine because I'm very
Okay.
excited about this wine, and I'm actually I have great adoration for the winemaker, whose name is Amichai Luria, who is a Boston native, Boston, Massachusetts, and he was the first winemaker of any import in Shiloh. And Shiloh, for those of you who know your Bible, and I'm going to tell you for those of you who don't, is the birthplace or the origination of where Abraham, one of the three fathers of monotheism, and actually the founder of monotheism in ancient times, established the
I'm
first
not going to open it.
offering offering to God, and he used the wine that he made right there in Shiloh.
Oh
And
my.
they have actually found wine presses that date back. I don't know about the Abraham's time, but literally thousands of years. And Amichai has been growing grapes in the area for the last 15 years or so. And one of them is this Petit Syrah, which is really, really a wonderful aromatic, very rich, very dark. This is much darker
Mhm.
and more intense and more opulent than the Carmel and also, frankly, the Malbec from Herzog. And it's also more expensive, but
What does a
it's
bottle of this go for about
it's
retail?
in the 40s,
40s. It's still
in the
not a
40s.
bad price for a special occasion dinner, for example.
Oh my
You know,
goodness, yeah, yeah.
how was
And it's spicy and oh my goodness, it just imparts flavor to every single part of your palate. And the size, the front, the tip, the center, and great, delicious fruitiness that continues for long after it leaves your mouth. It's just a great bottle of wine.
I didn't ask this question. How did you get into wine? Have you always been interested in wine?
I love the question because it's such a fascinating question. I actually graduated with a degree in accounting. Let me just, um, and
That's perfect for a wine
I
taster.
was a fiscal, I was what they called, I don't know if you remember this, but at, after Abe Beame became mayor of New York, I
Right.
don't know if you remember that long ago, dating myself, but after Abe Beame, the city was going out of business. I mean, they were literally going bankrupt. So they hired auditors, and they hired me right out of college, and I was auditing painting contracts.
Oh
Now,
my.
how boring is that?
Yeah.
And I had a great job auditing painting contracts. And someone said to me, and I was miserable. And someone said to me, "Why don't you come to work for us and sell some wine?" And I said, "Wine? I don't even know what. My favorite wine is Scotch, you know."
Yeah, I got it.
But they said to me, "But now remember, I was all of 20 something years old." And they said, "You're going to have to travel for that." I said, "Well, I'm glad to travel, but I can't afford to travel." They said, "No, no, no, we pay for that." And that's when I said, "You had me at hello." So, I went to work in the wine business, and I haven't looked back ever since. And that's where, and I've traveled all over the world, uh, working with and for winemakers and vintners and marketers of wine. I had a short stint with a boutique wine purveyor out of California where we had only 10 tiny wineries called Wine Exchange, San Francisco Wine Exchange, and they were all non-kosher. I did that for a short time. And then all those years, of course, I was kosher. And I used to say to David Herzog and the Herzog family, I used to come to them all the time. "What do you got new? What do you got fresh? What do you got delicious?" Because I used to taste all these non-kosher wines. I didn't drink them, but I tasted them. And they would say, "Jay, why don't you just come and help us build a portfolio?" So I did.
How
And
long have you been with Royal Wines now and the Herzog?
over 30 years, over
Over
30
30
years.
years. Your family.
And I haven't looked back ever since. Yeah. They kid me all the time. They say, "Your name is not Jay Buchsbaum. Your name is Jay Herzog Buchsbaum." You know.
Got it. I'm going to step off over here just for a second because we're going to make the um, charosets, and we're going to. We have two sangrias, a white and a red, um, and we're going to make that with the red. I wanted to just ask you about the white sangria briefly. Now, sangria, this is a true sangria because it's from Spain, and I
Right.
love Spanish food. Um, uh, our 10 days or 2 weeks in Spain were highlights. Almost 3 weeks, I think. Um, we went from one end of the country to the other. It was great. Um, the Tell us about the white sangria first.
Okay, the white sangria is made from uh, classic local white grapes from from uh, from the Spanish area that they come from. I'm trying to remember. Where is it? It's in. I forget for the moment which area of Spain it's from, but what's fascinating about it is it's almost all wine. There's any of the flavors that are in it, to the fruit flavors are all naturally derived.
Right.
They are not artificial. There's no artificial flavors in it whatsoever. But and so therefore it's really fresh and lively and so delicious. But what I think is really fascinating, we told the story about Abraham and Shiloh, and we
Right.
told the story about the lineage family of the Herzog family, and we told the story about the Rothschild in Carmel. But this is also such a fascinating story. If people remember their history, in 1492, besides Columbus discovering America, Jews were expelled during the Spanish
Right.
Inquisition from Spain.
Right.
Well, 500 years later, the Cohen family, which had they traced their roots back to Spain, they had been living in Morocco, and they came back to Spain about 20 years ago and established the first Jewish winery in Spain in 500 years.
Oh my.
And they're making now Spanish wines, all kosher, but all by the first time by a Jewish family in 500 and over 500 years. So
I have
that's
to ask,
just the backstory.
do they make a sherry? Because that's
They
known.
do not make a sherry. They do not make a Spanish sherry, but they make really wonderful Tempranillos, and they
Ah,
make really wonderful all kinds of great Spanish wines, Crianza, uh, Rioja, uh, all from the great Spanish grapes that grow there, and this is just one of them.
well, we're going to make a charoset. Now, I was going to make a whole bunch of this right now, and I have some walnuts here, um, which is part of the charosets. And I was going to make like enough for 10 people, and I realized for our seder next week, it won't last. So I'm going to make a little bit today. It won't last. Um, so I'm going to start.
Mark,
Yes.
Mark, remember I told you before? I said I had a very interesting way of opening up a
Oh,
screw cap
yes, we got
wine.
to do that. Yes. I'm going to watch
So
you
I want to
first.
show you on air. I think everybody will have a kick out of this. One of the wines that we have, which is not being shown here today, is a Goose Bay Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. And it's really a very high quality, just as this sangria is. But people often lament about the idea of having a screw cap because, makes the wine seem cheap, which is just not true, as you well know,
Right.
necessarily. And, whether it's good or bad, it does not depend on whether it's a screw cap or not.
Got it.
But one of the things that people miss in in restaurants is that popping of the cork, right? So I discovered a way. I don't remember where I learned this, or maybe I did it on my own. I don't remember of how to get a fun way to open up a screw cap and still get that experience. So we go to the table, you go to your guests, and you grab below. Usually they grab it on the top and turn it. We're not going to do that. We're going to grab it below. We're going to hold the capsule below the screw cap and then turn the bottle. Watch.
Oh,
There you
my.
go. And that cracks the top. Didn't crack it this time. Let's see if I can do it with this one here. You know, well, I thought it would work, but it did not working in this case. But
All right. I'm going to try it.
here we
I'm going
go.
to
Here we
hold it
go.
at
So you can
below.
hear
I
the.
know. Oh,
You
did you
see?
hear that?
You got it.
I did it.
There you go.
Yay. All right.
You're better. You're better than I am. There you go.
I'm going to take this glass And we're going to taste the wine, the sangria, before we make the. And usually this is charoset. It's made with a sweet wine. And this is a sweet wine. Carol is going to love this wine. She's already reaching for it. I took one little taste. It's really fresh. It's got a very nice nose. And look at that pretty color. Oh, nice. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this. Now we're going to start with an apple. And Jay, if you have any recommendations on this, let me know. This represents, just so you know, the mortar that the Jews made to put the pyramids together with the bricks. And it's very simple.
You know, while you're doing that, I
Sure.
love to tell the. I just had an interview with the. Well, I can't remember, Wall Street Journal or whatever, but
Yeah, you were in the
you
Wall
know,
Street Journal. I forgot to mention that.
yeah. What's interesting about Passover is that unlike any other Jewish holiday, which requires, you know, synagogue attendance, prayer, in some cases fasting, the most ecumenical of all Jewish holidays is the Passover. Why? Because the only thing that's required on Passover for you to, you know, comply with holiday tradition is for you to show up, eat some good food, drink some good wine, and share it with friends and family. And
It's
who doesn't want
also,
to do that, you know?
it is absolutely. And it's my favorite holiday, has been since I was a kid, because it's the first holiday for freedom of all kinds, religious freedom. Um, and I think everybody uh, can embrace at least the idea of Passover or Pesach.
Yeah, freedom from servitude. Oh my goodness. It's a theme, that echoes to this day.
Absolutely. And one of the
And
reasons
sometimes, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the reasons I decided to do this program with you is that hopefully somebody watching who doesn't know Jews, who's never met a Jew, who may be anti-Semitic, can learn about our culture a little bit. That's my hope. Okay. There we go. So we take the apple, we put it into the bowl. And I know that I should have chopped this a little bit finer. I'm going to take some walnuts now. And I'll have a recipe up in the next day or so. The recipes all call, and this is how I decided to do this, is where is my, there it is, my mortar. To chop the nuts. So I put it in a plastic bag, and instead of using my knife, I'm chopping it this way.
You know, for those people, not everybody has a mortar like you fancy guy. So what we've done at home is that we've used a heavy glass.
Yeah.
Or even a wine bottle. You know, a full wine bottle.
I wouldn't want to chance hitting it too hard and wasting all that wine. But yes. So I'm going to mix that together. Huh? Please. Okay. and we'll mix that together. Now, the other ingredient in this, and you can put it in a food processor if you want, and I probably should have. So I can't plug it in. I goofed. I goofed, everybody. I needed an extra plug. Oh, wait, I have one here.
Yeah, do that.
It'll reach.
I think that'll be great.
You know, Carol said to me before, don't you put it in a processor? I said, oh, no, we don't need to process it.
No,
And
she's
Carol
absolutely
was
right.
She was absolutely correct.
There's a moral there.
Yes. Listen to my wife. Okay. Plug that in. I'm going to put this into the processor like this. Now, I'm going to add the sangria.
Perfect.
That. Oops. And we'll stop. Now, I'll move this. Take another spoon. Over here, I have some matzah. And I'm going to make a little sandwich. This is traditionally the way you eat it.
Might I suggest,
Yes.
or might I just mention that lots of people, like you said, not everybody puts it in a processor. Sometimes they just chop it fine for themselves. Sometimes they put it into a processor and put it in for a short time. But also, you can make it lighter or darker. I actually like my charoset a little darker, but that's a beautiful color right there. But you can add more wine and make it darker.
All right, let me look. Should I make that darker? I can do that.
I just don't want to waste all that good sangria. You know,
Yeah.
let it infuse.
Let's see if it'll turn.
Oh, you got to add more sangria though.
Yes, I need to see if the blade will turn.
Oh.
Okay. Nope. I goofed.
Okay. No, you didn't
I
go.
have to
That's
do
fine.
that next time. I think you're right, though. So I'm going to scoop this out a little bit. And normally what you would do is you make a sandwich like that. Am I correct?
A lot of people just dip the matzah in the charoset or dip the vegetable in the charoset. Some people do what you're doing, but yes, that can be done. But normally it's like a dip that you used as a dip. But man, you're making me hungry.
This brings back memories, you know, of Seder's with my mom and my dad, my my grandparents. It's and with the matcha too. This is terrific. Well, it worked. You know, at the end, it did work. Listen, Jay, thank you very much.
How did the flavor of the
wine
did you
pulls
feel
it
the
all
flavor of
together.
the wine? Put it all together.
I should have added more wine. No question. Okay. So, Jay, thank you very much. I really Really appreciate your taking your time. This is a busy time of year and spending some time with us here at Mark Allen Cooked. Will you come back sometime?
I'd love to come back. And the next time, what I'd love to do is come back and just talk about great wines that happen to be kosher. It doesn't have to be holiday related.
Yeah, let's do that.
Maybe,
All right.
maybe about Israel, maybe about, let's do a feature since you're in that area. Let's do a feature maybe or a focus on the lineage of the Herzog family. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's
that'd
so
be
many
great.
things.
Maybe we could do it from
And we could,
the winery. We'll do it live from the
you're
winery.
right, you're way ahead of me. We could do it at the winery over dinner. It would be amazing.
Oh, that'd be great. We could do that. Listen, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hold on, Jay. Don't go away. We're out of time, and we appreciate your watching. If you next week we're going to do Easter. We're going to do a fabulous plant-based uh, uh, plant-based entree that's really tasty, really good. It's healthy, and by the way, it's kosher. How about that? All right, we'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.